Hello, everyone. Tonight we're going to visit a strange place. Not a distant city or a forgotten century, but something closer. Much closer. A quiet space between what is and what might be. Where things drift in and out of focus. Where objects seem to exist in two places at once. The phantom world. As you're lying there, maybe the blanket feels warm and heavy on one side. Or maybe you're floating a little. Mind adrift. That's all right. This story was made for just such a moment. A moment between wakefulness and whatever comes next. The stars are out there, blinking without urgency. But let me ask, how can you be sure that a thing is only where you see it? And if you're not looking, could it be somewhere else entirely? I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you. Let me know in the comments below. I'm always curious where these quiet little science stories are drifting to. And if this video helped you while you were there, now close your eyes if you want to. Let your thoughts melt gently. We're stepping past the curtain, into the phantom world. It begins, as many good mysteries do, with something that shouldn't be possible. A particle, something unimaginably small, far tinier than dust, can be fired at a blank screen with two slits in it. Like sending a marble toward two doorways. You might expect it to go through one slit. Right, but that's not what happens. Physicists have done this experiment many times. They send one particle, just one, and it appears to go through both slits. At the same time, on the screen behind the slits, an interference pattern appears, bands of light and shadow, just as if a wave had passed through both doors and rippled outward. But waves don't come in single particles, do they? And so, with no audience and no fuss, the universe does something peculiar. It splits the particle's position, here and there. Not metaphorically, literally. The particle exists in two places until someone looks. That's the rule. If no one is watching, nature plays freely. She spreads possibilities like colors across a page. But the moment you observe, really measure, the particle lands in one place. One slit, one path. The curtain drops, but behind that curtain, maybe the particle always knew both ways. Maybe it never had to choose. Out there in the world, things behave differently. Your phone, your pillow, your cup of tea, none of them seem to be in multiple places at once. Not visibly. They are definite, predictable, quiet. But zoom in far enough, down into the tiniest levels of reality, and certainty begins to slip away. That's what quantum physics is. Not the science of what is, but the study of what might be. Here, everything is fuzzy, indecisive, not random. Exactly. But more like a soft suggestion, a dream of where something could be until it's forced to settle down. Picture it, a single electron drifting across a chamber. It doesn't choose left or right, it chooses both. It whispers down two roads, until something, someone, peaks. Maybe you've done that too. Wandered down two thoughts at once. Imagined two versions of a conversation, or remembered two versions of the past, until the memory locked itself down and picked one. Maybe that's not so different. There's an old saying in quantum physics: the act of measurement collapses the wave function. It's just a fancy way of saying, once you look, the magic is gone. Not lost? Exactly. Just focused, hardened into one version of the truth. But before that, it was music. Open, soft, everywhere at once. Let's stay here a moment longer, not in a lab, but in that liminal space just before sleep. Can you imagine two versions of yourself, one still listening to this voice, the other already drifting away? Both are real, in a sense. Both are possible. But eventually, like the particle, you'll settle into one. Your mind will pick a path. That's the nature of things. Still, just for now, you can linger in between. Because sometimes the most beautiful truths are the ones we can't quite prove. We can only observe them gently before they vanish. Maybe this universe is just an unsaved test version, or that's your brain's way of playing tricks. Who knows? Right. But the quantum world doesn't seem to mind. It keeps dancing anyway, between what is and what might be. Even as you lie there now, your body still and your thoughts beginning to dim. Remember, somewhere out there, a particle just passed through two doors, at once and somewhere else. Something small and quiet chose not to be observed. That's okay. You don't have to observe either. Just rest, and we'll continue soon. In a quiet box sits a cat. You can't see it. You can't hear it. But it's in there, behind a little door that stays closed. Somewhere inside that box is a mechanism simple enough in theory, like a game of chance. A bit of radioactive material might decay, or it might not. If it does, it triggers a tiny hammer, which cracks a capsule of poison gas. If not, the cat naps on peacefully, the strange part. Until the moment you open the box. The cat is both alive and not. Yes, at once. Both curled up, breathing softly, and gone. This is Schrödinger's cat, a famous mind experiment that made people tilt their heads in discomfort and fascination. It's not about cruelty, it's about confusion, deep, poetic confusion at the heart of science. Because that cat, in that closed box, is not just a symbol. It's an echo of a truth we keep uncovering in the tiny gears of reality. The tiniest things, the particles, the waves, the quantum ghosts don't seem to pick a reality until someone peeks in. Until then, they shimmer between options, not either or, but both. And this wasn't just theory, not anymore. Today, in sealed laboratories and in delicate devices smaller than a pinhead, scientists can place particles in superposition, real ones, measured ones. They float there, suspended between two outcomes, two paths, two identities, like the coin mid-flip, like the word on the tip of your tongue, like the feeling you get when you're not sure whether you're awake or dreaming. A quantum system, just like that cat, just like that coin, can be two things until the universe forces it to choose. It makes you wonder what else might live in this phantom zone between yes and no. Between presence and absence, could a thought be in two states? Could a memory? There's an eerie comfort in the idea that maybe, somewhere in your mind, a version of the day you've just had is still unresolved, still blooming in two directions. A version where you spoke up, a version where you didn't, and in some fuzzy quantum metaphor, maybe both are still gently alive. For now. Of course, cats don't come in quantum sizes. Not really. The moment you scale up, the wave breaks. Superpositions crumble into singularities. That's the weird thing about this universe. It's built on indecision, and yet appears so certain. So much of what you see and feel, the softness of a blanket, the weight of your arm, the faint buzz of air drifting through the room is made of particles, and those particles used to live in a world of both and. But something happened along the way. They decohered, they picked a side. That cat in the box. In your mind, it might be both things, but in the world, it's one. Still, that idea of both realities hovering in the dark says something deeper. It reminds us that not everything must resolve immediately. Sometimes it's okay to be in between, to linger between two decisions or two feelings, to float between wakefulness and rest, to not know what comes next and be at peace with that, because the universe doesn't always know either. Let me share a small image. A sleepy cat not in a box, but on a windowsill. Its paws are twitching as it dreams. Is it chasing something? Remembering something you watch from a distance? Unsure. And for a few moments, you feel the split, the part of you watching, the part of you remembering when you used to dream like that, the soft overlap of past and present, a little like a quantum state. Isn't it one consciousness? Two experiences, still part of one whole. There's a phrase physicists use when they talk about reality on a quantum level. The state vector hasn't collapsed yet, meaning the story isn't written. Not fully. There's still time, still wiggle room, still a breath between outcomes. And as long as that breath lasts, 1,000 paths might lie ahead, waiting, just like the cat, just like your next thought, just like you. Right now, drifting softly between sleep and wakefulness. Don't worry if you slip into one or the other. That's part of the magic, too. This story is patient. It will wait. Out beyond the realm of thought experiments, beyond cats in boxes and philosophical guesses, lies something tangible, observable, a real experiment that changed how we see everything. It's called the double-slit experiment. Picture it, a beam of particles, electrons, maybe fired one by one at a barrier with two vertical slits. Behind the slits, a glowing screen captures where each particle lands. Now, you'd expect something simple. A particle goes through one slit or the other. Right. It should leave two neat clusters on the back wall, two shadows of certainty. But that's not what happens. When no one watches the slits, something strange occurs. The electrons form an interference pattern, not two bands, but a whole series of light and dark stripes, as if waves were colliding. Waves, but we're firing particles. It's as if each electron passes through both slits at the same time, as if it interferes with itself, as if it's in two places at once. And when we add a detector to check which slit it went through, the pattern changes. The wave collapses. The stripes disappear. The electron suddenly chooses a slit and behaves like a classic, well-behaved particle. In other words, the moment we watch, the magic is gone. It's unsettling, in the gentlest way. This isn't a trick of the equipment. It's been confirmed again and again. No matter how careful we are, when we observe, we change the outcome. You might say the universe doesn't like being watched too closely. Or maybe it prefers privacy. Or maybe it doesn't decide until we ask. There's something deeply poetic about that. Like the way a dream fades when you try to write it down, or how a feeling changes the moment you name it out loud. Observation shapes reality. Even now, while you lie there, thinking, drifting. There's a part of your brain that's observing your own thoughts, and another part that's wondering whether it should. What happens when you stop watching? Does the thought continue anyway? In a quiet lecture hall, long ago, a young physicist drew a diagram on a chalkboard. Two slits, a wave, a curve of probability. He paused, brushed the dust from his sleeve, and said softly, "This changes everything. Because if even one particle can be in two places, then maybe reality itself is just a gentle suggestion, a pattern in the fog, a poem, not a command." Sometimes, we think of science as cold, precise, all numbers and formulas. But here, in this corner of quantum mechanics, things are softer. Particles blur, waves whisper, certainty hesitates. And it turns out, the tiniest parts of the universe might behave more like dreams than machines. It's almost romantic, in a strange way. Let's imagine something together. You're standing in front of a frozen pond. The surface is glassy, undisturbed. You take a pebble small, smooth, and toss it gently. But as the ripple spreads, it splits, forks, turns, two patterns, moving in opposite directions, as if the pebble chose two futures. You watch, unsure which is real, then you blink, and one pattern fades. Only one remains. That's the double-slit experiment. Played out in ripples, in silence, in the mind. And so, when we say that a particle can be in two places at once, we don't mean it's teleporting. We mean it's undecided, not by choice, but by nature. It holds all possibilities in its quiet little existence, until we arrive with our curious eyes. And then, like a shy performer, it picks a role and takes the stage. But what if we looked away again? Would it change its mind? Would it return to its ghostly dance? Sliding through both slits, twirling in secret, maybe. Maybe reality is always practicing behind the curtain, waiting for us to stop watching, so it can go back to being possibility. As you sink deeper into rest, you might feel like your thoughts are doing the same thing. One moment, you're imagining this room. The next, you're somewhere else entirely. Not quite asleep, not quite awake. Your own mind, slipping through its own slits, whispering its own little interference patterns. And that's okay. That's where you're meant to be right now. Here. And somewhere else. Both. Let's linger a little longer in that strange, flickering space, the space where reality hesitates, where particles don't quite make up their minds. It's tempting to think we understand the world just by looking at it, that what we see is what is. But quantum physics has a quiet reply. The act of looking changes the world. This idea isn't just poetic, it's proven. In countless labs, across decades, physicists have watched this truth unfold. Observation collapses possibility into certainty. Imagine a room where lights glow only when you open the door. Otherwise, they're off. But here's the twist. The light wasn't just waiting. It didn't even exist until you stepped in. That's what quantum measurement is like. A particle doesn't simply have a position, or a direction, or a spin. Not until you ask. Before that, it's a cloud of probabilities, a whisper of every possible outcome. And it only picks one when you look. It's called the observer effect, and it's one of the most puzzling truths in physics. Even more puzzling, it doesn't require a human observer. Just anything that measures: a camera, a detector, a stray photon. Reality pays attention to attention itself. Now, picture a small silver machine in a lab. Just wires and vacuum tubes. A graduate student sits nearby, sipping bitter coffee. They're waiting for the particle to land, just watching the detector for that one click. But what if they hadn't been watching? What if the machine hadn't been switched on? Would the particle still have landed where it did? No one knows for sure. That's the mystery. Because the moment the measurement is made, the question disappears. The possibilities vanish. One path becomes real, and the others are simply gone, like dreams you didn't write down. It's easy to wonder if we live in a universe built for stories, a place where plot lines only exist because someone turns the page. That might sound like science fiction, but quantum mechanics keeps returning to the same quiet theme: reality is participatory. It doesn't unfold without us. It waits, patiently, like a book unopened. And you are not just a reader. You're the flashlight, the question, the quiet observer that turns probabilities into events. Isn't that a beautiful idea? Even in your stillness tonight, even here, half asleep, you shape the world just by noticing it. Let's try something. Close your eyes if they're not closed already. Imagine a feather, suspended in space. No wind, no weight. Just floating. It's not falling. Not yet. It's spinning very slightly, clockwise and counterclockwise. Not metaphorically. Literally. Until someone watches. Then only then it chooses a direction. There's no sound. No switch. Just a soft shift in what is. That's what particles do. They float in the between. A feather with two futures, waiting to be seen. And that feather, it might be you. Your next thought, your next dream, your next deep breath. You don't have to do anything right now. Not even decide if you're awake or not. Like those particles, you can just be undecided, both here and somewhere deeper. You don't have to collapse your thoughts into one. Let them float. Let them spin in both directions. Let your body stay still while your mind dances between this voice and the quiet space behind your eyelids. Nothing is broken. Nothing is missing. You're simply experiencing the universe the way it really is, soft-edged, blurred, a little unknowable, but beautiful. And maybe that's what sleep is. The moment when your inner observer stops measuring, when the lights turn off and the system returns to its superposition, a dream and a body, a breath and a shadow, a thought, still becoming, no longer asked to be one thing, just allowed to drift. And if a thought appears, or a flicker of memory, or a feeling from long ago, that's fine too. Don't worry about catching it. Don't try to define it. It's just your mind doing what the universe does best, exploring what could be. Somewhere in a quiet corner of the universe, two particles are born, not from a mother, not from a star, but from energy itself. A flicker in a vacuum, a gentle pulse in the deep, mathematical fabric of space. They are tiny, smaller than atoms, smaller than the dreams you forget by morning. Just a pair of particles, identical, entangled. And this is where things get strange. No matter how far apart they drift, one stays near. The other travels galaxies away, they remain connected. Not by threads, not by signals, but by fate. What happens to one happens to the other instantly. This phenomenon is called quantum entanglement, and it's the most delicate love story in physics. Two particles, once linked, carry matching information across space and time. Measure one, and the other reacts, not seconds later, not milliseconds later, immediately. Even if they're light years apart. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. He didn't like it. It felt like a violation, a cheat code in a game that was supposed to follow rules. But nature, it seems, doesn't care for neatness. It prefers entanglement, a universe built on relationships, silent, invisible bonds. You might wonder, how is that possible? How can something feel another thing from across the galaxy? No one knows for sure. Some say these particles don't really live in space the way we do, that they exist in a shared state, a kind of phantom world where here and there don't mean much. Others suggest our understanding of distance is just a trick of the mind, a useful illusion, like the edge of a cloud or the color of the sky. But here's what matters. Connection is real. Maybe that's true for you, too. Maybe you're entangled with someone else, someone far away, or long gone, or not yet met. Someone who shares a flicker of your energy, somewhere out there. And sometimes, just sometimes, you feel it. A sudden thought, a strange calm, a sense that someone else is thinking of you, or dreaming near you, or remembering you in the same moment you remember them. Is it science? Maybe not. But it's familiar. Let's return to our particles. They've never spoken, never touched, and yet, they know each other perfectly. Spin one left, and the other spins right. Flip one state, and the other flips too. It's like they're rehearsing a duet from opposite sides of a cosmic stage. No wires, no signals, just shared possibility. And somehow, it's enough. Here's a soft image for your thoughts. Two fireflies in a forest. One glows under a leaf, the other hovers by a stream. They blink not at the same time, but in rhythm, a quiet rhythm only they understand. They might never see each other again, but their lights stay in sync. That's entanglement. Not as a diagram on a chalkboard, but as a feeling, as a lullaby. Now breathe, not too deep, just enough to remind your body that it's safe, that it's allowed to rest. As your thoughts settle, remember some of the particles that make you, might once have been entangled, with stars, with light, with things long gone, and maybe just maybe they still are. So even if you feel far away from someone, or something, or someplace, you might not be. Not entirely. The connections run deeper than we can see. You don't have to believe it. Just let the thought pass by, like mist on a lake, like the faint flicker of a particle blinking in two places, like a memory you haven't had yet, like a dream, softly entangled with someone else's, and as the night stretches further, you might wonder if two particles can feel each other across galaxies. What else might be waiting quietly, invisibly, to be felt? Maybe nothing is ever truly alone. Not even you. Not even now. In a softly lit laboratory, a physicist works alone. The room is quiet, except for the low hum of a cooling unit and the occasional whisper of paper being turned. Outside, the night has fallen completely, and somewhere behind the glass, rain begins to tap against the window. She's been working for hours, calibrating lasers, checking detectors, not to prove something bold, not to invent something new, just to see if the world really is as uncertain as the equations say. The experiment is simple, at least on the surface. A beam of particles, a pair of slits, a detector that clicks. But tonight, something unusual happens. She sets everything up and walks out for just a moment. A sip of tea, a stretch, a blink. And when she returns, the pattern has already started forming on the screen. Only it's not the usual stripes, not waves, not particles, but a mixture. A strange, ghostly in-between. As if the experiment couldn't decide what it wanted to be. As if it knew she was coming back. She stares at the screen. Not alarmed. Not confused. Just quiet. There's something oddly poetic about it. Two outcomes. At once. A shimmer of paths unresolved. Later, she'll write it up. Carefully, clinically. But in that moment, alone in the flickering light, she lets her mind drift. What if every measurement contains a little echo of something that didn't happen? What if the world we see is just the version that answered the question fastest? What if reality on its tiniest, sleepiest level is always trying to tell us, this is just one of the ways things could have gone? And isn't that true for people, too? Sometimes, you live a day in one mood, while another version of you, only slightly different, might have lived it in another. You smile politely instead of saying what you really mean. You take one street instead of another. You blink, and the timeline chooses, but the other version still lingers, faintly, like a scent in a room where someone just left. Maybe that's all quantum mechanics really is, the science of roads not taken, the polite ghost of other outcomes. And tonight, they're all around you. Not scary, just present. Soft possibilities humming at the edge of now. Back in the lab, the physicist shuts off the detector. She yawns, stretches, and rubs her eyes. In that in-between moment between waking and sleeping, she feels it again. That sense that the room contains more than what's visible. That the air remembers the wave, even after the particle has collapsed. That the universe doesn't need an answer to exist, just a chance. Here's an image for your drifting mind. A hallway of mirrors, each slightly misaligned. When you walk, you catch glimpses of yourself from other angles, some smiling, some turning back, some pausing to tie a shoe. Each version is almost you, but only one is walking forward in this world. The others, they exist in reflection, in potential, in the same way a quantum state exists until it's asked to decide. And so do your thoughts. Sometimes, they echo between answers, between memories, between endings. Not broken, just uncollapsed. So if you're lying awake, half dreaming, and you feel two thoughts at once, don't worry. That's not confusion. That's your brain being gently quantum. One part of you is still here, and one part is already asleep. Let them both exist for a while. The universe won't mind. It's used to it, because even in the quietest rooms, even in the smallest particles, reality is always flickering, always waiting, and always whispering, "Choose when you're ready. Until then, just drift." Time, in our daily lives, feels like a gentle river. One direction, always forward. 1 second following another like beads on a thread. But in the quantum world, things are not quite so tidy. Particles can behave as if the future is speaking to the past, as if tomorrow's measurement can ripple backward through time and nudge today's outcome. It's called the delayed choice experiment. And it's not science fiction. It's real. It's reproducible. And it's deeply, dreamily strange. Imagine you're sending a photon, just one tiny particle of light, toward a pair of paths. It has a choice, go left or go right. But you delay your decision on how to observe it until after it's already gone through the paths. And somehow, it responds, as if it waited to decide what it had done until it knew what you were going to ask. It's like writing the ending of a story before you've read the first page, and the beginning somehow rewrites itself to match. The past, it seems, isn't as locked in as we once believed. You can lie back now, if you're not already. Let your own memories drift. Has there ever been a time you didn't understand something until later, and when you did, the past somehow made more sense? It didn't change, exactly, but it felt different, shifted, as if your understanding reached backward and gently smoothed the edges. Quantum mechanics seems to work like that. It whispers the past is not rigid. It's waiting for the right question. There's something peaceful about that idea. That maybe reality is more like a conversation than a chain of causes. Maybe the universe doesn't just move forward. Maybe it listens. Maybe it revises. Gently. Lovingly. Like an artist painting in reverse. Here's a soft picture for your thoughts. A tree in autumn. Its leaves are gold, but some are still green. As you look, one begins to fall, not because of the wind, but because you're watching. The tree seems to ask, is this the moment? And when you nod, quietly inside yourself, it lets the leaf go. It's not performance, not control, just collaboration, just participation. You, being part of the moment that shaped what already was. Of course, you don't need to solve any of this tonight. You don't need to figure out how the future and the past are folded together like linen in a drawer. You don't even need to stay awake. All you need to know is this. Your thoughts are allowed to stretch in both directions. Forward to the hopes of tomorrow. Backward to the softness of memory. They can meet somewhere in the middle right here, in the stillness of now. And maybe that's what dreams are, in a way. A kind of delayed choice. A space where the mind writes itself backwards. Where meaning flows in both directions. Where the stories you'll tell tomorrow reach into your sleep and adjust the colors of the day you just had. Maybe that's why dreams feel both old and new. Why they echo with things you haven't experienced yet. Why they feel like memories of something that hasn't happened. And so, if you wake in the morning and feel like something subtle has changed, don't rush to explain it. Just smile. Let it linger. Let the leaf fall. The past may have been rewritten in your sleep. Not changed. Just better understood. Like a soft sentence rewritten by the light of morning. The deeper you go into the phantom world, the less the universe behaves like a machine, and the more it resembles a dream. In fact, quantum physicists have suggested something quietly astonishing, that every possibility, every branch, every outcome might actually exist. This is the many worlds interpretation, not one universe, but many. Not one you, but infinite versions. Walking infinite paths. Imagine you come to a fork in a trail. One path leads into the trees. The other curves toward a lake. In this world, you choose the lake. You hear the water. Feel the cool breeze. Watch a dragonfly skip across the surface. But in another world, you chose the forest. You found a fallen log, a patch of mushrooms, the whisper of leaves. And according to many worlds' theory, both happened. Not as pretend, not as fantasy, but as realities, parallel, unreachable, quietly existing. You might ask, where are these other worlds? And the answer, softly, is right here, stacked beside ours like the pages of an unread book. We don't see them not because they're far, but because we don't turn the page. Each decision you make, each coin toss, each blink may branch. And you, softly, gently, step into one thread of possibility, leaving behind 100 others like footprints in fresh snow. It's not meant to overwhelm, it's meant to comfort. Because if there are infinite versions of you, then maybe somewhere, always, there's a version that gets it right, that rests, that forgives, that laughs at the right time, that remembers to water the plants. And if you're lying awake tonight, tangled in a thought you can't solve, just know another you already has. Let's picture something. Together. An old bookshop. The doorbell chimes as you walk in. Dust floats through a beam of soft light. You browse the shelves, and something strange happens. You find a book that tells the story of a day almost like yours, a version of your morning, your thoughts, your choices, but slightly different. You turn the page, and suddenly, you feel it. The world where you picked up the phone, or where you didn't say what you regret, or where you never forgot that birthday. It's not eerie, it's peaceful. Because it means you are not alone in time. You're just one chapter in a sprawling, infinite book. This isn't about rewriting your life. It's about easing your grip. Knowing that some possibilities, once imagined, are real in their own quiet way. You don't need to reach them. They're already happening. Somewhere. To someone who is also you. Maybe the dream you'll fall into tonight is a doorway to one of those other paths. Maybe you'll catch a glimpse of a street you never walked, a friend you never met, a moment that never was, and yet feels familiar. Let it pass by like a train in the distance, waving, without needing to board. Because this version of you, the one lying here, drifting in soft silence, is exactly where it needs to be. In the end, the many worlds idea isn't about getting lost in what-ifs. It's about accepting this reality is generous. It doesn't throw possibilities away. It keeps them, stores them, tends to them like garden paths, branching gently in all directions. And all you need to do, right now, is walk the one you're on. Slowly, quietly, trusting that the others are out there, watching, waiting, whispering, and maybe, in some other version of this night, you're already fast asleep. If you were to look closely, really closely at your hand right now, what would you see? Skin, lines, maybe a freckle, the curve of your palm, a pulse, faint beneath the surface. but shrink down further, past cells, past molecules, down to the very particles that make you. What you'd find isn't a solid hand at all. You'd find atoms. Yes, but mostly empty space. And the particles inside them, they don't sit still. They don't even agree on where they are. They blur. They vibrate. They exist in overlapping superpositions, a state of both here and not here. At the quantum level, your hand is a cloud. Not metaphorically, literally. Each particle that makes up your fingers can briefly exist in multiple positions at once, like it's weighing its options, like it hasn't made up its mind about where to be. Only when measured, only when noticed, does it settle down. And then just one position, just one outcome. But the in-between, that ghostly maybe space, that's where most of your body actually exists, for just a fraction of a second. And that's true whether you're building a rocket or just lying in bed. There's something oddly tender in that. To think of yourself not as a fixed, rigid object, but as a shimmering field of probabilities, as something soft, something unresolved. And not because you're broken, but because the universe itself is. Let's return to a particle. Just one. Floating. We fire it toward a wall, but before it hits, we ask, "Where are you?" and it says nothing. Because it isn't anywhere. Yet. It's still deciding. Some nights are like that too. Your thoughts drift from one image to another. A beach you visited as a child, the scent of rain on concrete, the silence of a lamp turning off. Each moment is almost the one you land on, until one finally becomes solid, and then, like a particle caught in measurement, you fall asleep. Here's a small picture for you. A paper lantern floating in the sky. It wobbles in the wind, suspended between one gust and another. It doesn't fall. It doesn't rise. It just hovers, glowing softly, waiting to be carried somewhere. That's you. For now, a warm, flickering possibility. The idea of superposition isn't meant to confuse. It's meant to comfort. It tells us that indecision is natural, that existing in multiple states is normal, that not knowing exactly who you are or what you feel is a feature, not a flaw. Even your atoms feel that way. Even now, and when you're ready, when the moment comes, the wave will collapse. Your mind will pick a place. Your breath will deepen. The particle that is your consciousness will choose rest. Until then, it's okay to float, to shimmer, to be here and there. Just a little longer. If the universe allows particles to live in many places at once, why don't we see it? Why don't coffee cups blur or chairs flicker between locations? Or your toothbrush appear in two drawers at the same time? The answer lies in a quiet, invisible process called decoherence. It's not violent. It's not loud. It's more like forgetting. Every quantum system, every particle that floats between maybes is incredibly delicate. It can stay uncertain for a moment, like a soap bubble in still air. But the world is noisy. Photons bump. Air molecules nudge. Tiny, chaotic influences press in from every direction. And the quantum system begins to tangle with all of it until it's no longer a soft cloud of maybes, but a fixed thing, a choice, a fact. It decoheres. Decoherence is why the quantum world fades into the classical one. Why we see a glass on the table, not a ghostly suggestion of many glasses, Why the strange rules apply to particles, but not pancakes. It's not that magic stops working. It's that the world becomes too entangled to keep the magic afloat. The wave function doesn't break. It just spills into the room, into the photons, into everything, until it can't be called a wave anymore. Just life. That's a little like thoughts, too. Have you ever had an idea fragile, delicate, that felt perfect, just before you tried to explain it, and the moment you did, it vanished? That's decoherence of the mind. The idea was beautiful because it was still floating, unmeasured, untangled from language. But once you shared it, it had to choose. And like a particle pinned to a path, it settled, sometimes beautifully, sometimes awkwardly, but always. Finally, here's a quiet image. A snowflake falling in a forest. For a while, it's suspended, shimmering. It catches the light, untouched, but eventually, it lands. Not because something went wrong, but because gravity is patient, and the world is full of things to bump into. So what does this mean for you? It means you don't need to chase the blur. You don't need to hold on to every possible version of yourself, because the world gently, invisibly is helping you choose, not by force, just by being there. And in this moment, as your breath slows and your mind softens, you're decohering, too. Choosing sleep, letting go of the swirl of thoughts, becoming a fixed, peaceful point. But remember, just because the wave has collapsed doesn't mean it wasn't beautiful. The blur was real. The maybes mattered. They carried you here. So if you're still hovering, not quite in dreams yet, that's okay. You're just floating a little longer, like a snowflake that hasn't landed, like a thought you don't need to explain, like the whisper of a particle fading into the world, exactly as it should. Let's imagine a dream that chooses its ending after you've already woken. You remember walking through a glowing forest, or was it a crumbling city? You're not sure. The memory shifts depending on your mood. Each time you recall it, the edges rearrange themselves gently, like silk. That's what some physicists believe happens at the quantum level. Reality isn't set in stone. It can wait to be shaped, even by things that happen later. This leads us into one of the most peculiar ideas in quantum physics: the delayed choice quantum eraser. A variation of the double-slit experiment, but with a twist. Instead of observing the particle before it hits the screen, we let it fly unmeasured. And only after it lands, we choose whether or not to erase the which path information. And somehow, this retroactively changes the pattern, as if the particle knew what you would do in the future, as if the past waited patiently for instructions from the present. Like an unopened letter that doesn't write itself until after it's read. It's not that the future is changing the past exactly. It's more that time, on this level, doesn't behave like a line. It loops. It blurs. It allows moments to lean on each other, quietly, from both directions. You might wonder, lying there, listening to the hum of night, does this affect me? Am I also suspended between causes and effects? And the answer, quietly, is, perhaps. Your choices might matter, not just before the outcome, but also after. Your understanding of a moment might ripple backward, changing the way you felt it. the way it formed inside you, like remembering a conversation differently, just because you finally understood the person, like rewriting the beginning, without ever picking up a pen. Here's a tender image. A candle burns in a room. Its light flickers on the wall. The flame dances, and on the other side of the world, someone breathes out long and slow, and the light wavers. You don't know why? You don't need to. But somehow, one affects the other. Not through space, but through time. Some nights, your mind does that too. You replay something, a word, a glance, a silence you didn't understand, and suddenly, weeks or months later, it clicks, the meaning lands, and when it does, it feels like the moment itself just shifted, as if the past softly edited itself to match the truth. That's the mind doing what particles do, erasing, replacing, gently choosing, not to forget, but to clarify, to bring peace. Maybe the universe wants the same. Maybe it's always looking for ways to soften its story, to offer you versions that bring comfort, not false ones, just refined. If the past and future are in quiet dialogue, then sleep might be where they meet, a neutral ground, a soft space where time folds over itself like a blanket. And your dreams, they're not random. They're editorial notes, messages, not just from memory, but from what's to come. So, as you close your eyes and your breath settles into rhythm, remember the moment you're in is not fixed. It's still being written, not just by what you've done, but by who you're becoming. And that means you can rest easy, because even the past is still listening, still willing to shift, still ready to understand you better in the morning. You might think of the quantum world as something far away, tucked into labs, wrapped in equations, sealed in cold vacuum chambers. But sometimes it slips through. Sometimes it hums beneath your feet, sits beside your breakfast, hides in the tiniest acts of nature. Take quantum tunneling, for example. It sounds like science fiction, like particles digging their way through walls, but it's real. And, strangely enough, you wouldn't even be alive without it. At its heart, tunneling is the universe ignoring its own rules. A particle, say, an electron approaches a barrier. It doesn't have enough energy to climb over, and yet, somehow, it appears on the other side, not by crashing through, but by slipping through, like mist through a crack, like a thought that finds its way into your dreams without asking. You see, particles are not just points, they're waves, and waves can stretch. They can smear into places they shouldn't reach, even where the math says no. So while one part of the wave stays on this side of the wall, another part continues, as if the barrier were never there. And with a little bit of luck, the particle shows up ghost-like on the far side. No explosion, no damage, just quiet rebellion. This happens inside stars, inside cells, inside you. Quantum tunneling is how protons fuse in the heart of the sun. It's why the sun shines, why there's light on your pillow right now, why life unfolded. All because particles decided that barriers weren't as solid as they looked. Maybe that's a lesson, too. That some walls in your mind, some thoughts that feel like you can't pass through, are not absolute. They're just energetic illusions, barriers made of expectation. And if you let yourself drift, If you stop pushing and simply become wave-like for a while, you might pass right through, not by force, but by softness. Here's a gentle image, a moth fluttering against a window. On the other side, a dim light. It taps the glass again and again, but then, just as it's about to give up, the breeze nudges open a corner of the frame, and it slips through. The light never changed, only the path. That's how tunneling works. It doesn't promise results. It only offers possibility. Sometimes rare, sometimes quiet, but always there. So if tonight you're lying still, thinking of something that feels unreachable, a dream, a calm, a person, a version of yourself you don't need to break through. You don't need to leap or shout. Just exist near it. Let your mind touch the edge of the thought, and trust that some part of you, some gentle wave within, might pass through. Because the universe is built on those soft crossings, tiny miracles that require no effort, only presence, only time, and maybe a bit of rest. So rest now. Feel your body grow lighter, your thoughts less certain. You are not pushing. You are tunneling. You are becoming the wave. And the wall ahead, it's just an invitation. Sometimes, the smallest things leave the clearest traces. In a dim laboratory in 1911, a man named Charles Wilson filled a sealed chamber with vapor alcohol or water just on the edge of condensation. He called it a cloud chamber, but it's really a kind of magic lantern, because inside this chamber, invisible particles, cosmic rays, fragments from deep space could pass through and leave behind glowing trails, like ghosts writing their names in fog. The cloud chamber doesn't see particles directly. It sees what they disturb. It watches the way they interact with the world around them, leaving trails of mist as they move through the vapor, like footprints on a dewy lawn. That's how we first glimpsed the quantum world, not as blinking lights or data lines, but as delicate paths of condensation, curling and splitting and spiraling. Proof that something had passed by, something small, something fast, something real. That's how the universe works. Sometimes, it doesn't show you the thing itself. It shows you what was left behind. A laugh still echoing in an empty room. A crease on a pillow. A scent in the air. Not presence, but evidence of it. And maybe your thoughts are like that, too. Maybe they leave quiet trails in your mind. The memory of a kindness. The shape of a question. A gentle impression from a dream you can't recall, but still feel. You don't have to chase the particle. Just notice the trail. That's enough. Picture this. A soft gray room. Still. Quiet. Cold vapor curls along the bottom, like early morning mist. Then suddenly a path, a spiral, a curve of light, threading through the fog. Then it's gone. But the trail lingers, and you know something real just passed through. That's you. Tonight. A mind at rest. Still leaving patterns. Even while you sleep, cloud chambers taught us something beautiful, that we can learn about things we'll never see directly. That reality doesn't always announce itself. It simply passes by and whispers. And sometimes, we only notice after the fact. Have you ever felt a decision forming long before you made it, or remembered something, just as someone mentioned it? Like your mind had already begun to curve toward it. That's your trail. That's your particle. tracing its path through the vapor. Even now, as your thoughts begin to curl downward into rest, you're still moving, still leaving marks, still spiraling softly through the chamber of sleep. You don't need to understand every turn. Just keep drifting and trust that the trail will form behind you, because the universe is watching, too. Not with eyes, but with fog, with stillness, with the quiet recognition that something important just passed through. And if you're lucky, it might leave just enough of a trace to dream about. If you ask a physicist what quantum mechanics can tell us, they'll often hesitate. Not because they don't know, but because what they know isn't certainty. It's probability. In the quantum world, we don't get answers. We get odds. When a particle moves, we can't say where it is, only where it's likely to be. We describe its future in curves and chances. A 17% chance it goes left, a 38% chance it spins up, a 0.01% chance it does something no one expects. And that's the best we can do. Because nature, at its smallest scale, is not a machine. It's a dice roll, but these aren't the heavy dice of fate or the coin flips of luck. They're more like ripples in a pond, each outcome forming and fading, overlapping with others. Probabilities that interfere and cancel and reinforce, not in chaos, but in intricate, layered beauty. It's called the wave function, not a rule book. More like a melody. Here's a soft image. A musician sits at a piano in the middle of the night. The sheet music is blank. They close their eyes and press a single key, then another. Each note chosen not with certainty, but with feeling, a gentle guessing, a flow. What emerges is not planned, but neither is it random. It's probabilistic. A song that could have been many songs, but became this one. Just this. That's how particles behave. Each movement a kind of improvisation, shaped by chance and the quiet logic of waves. And in a way, that's how your thoughts behave, too. Each one arising from a soft field of possibility. You don't always control them, but they're not accidents. They're ripples from somewhere deep. So tonight, as your body rests and your mind wanders, don't be surprised if your thoughts begin to dissolve into maybes, images that don't quite land, sentences that trail off, memories that blend with fiction. That's not confusion. That's the wave function playing its final notes. You don't have to make decisions now. You don't have to hold any truth too tightly. You can let everything be likely without needing it to be certain. Let your next thought rise like mist. Let your next breath carry 1,000 possibilities, and let the most peaceful one drift into place. Here's another image. A candlelit dinner, but no one's arrived yet. Plates are set, music is playing, the door is ajar. Each chair holds a different story. Will someone arrive with laughter, with apology, with quiet hands? You don't know. But the room holds all of it waiting, glowing, still. That's the wave function, too. A readiness, a quiet expectancy, a field of futures. And you are not a fixed point. You are a soft pulse in that field, a moment of music, a chance given shape. So rest now. Let your probabilities hum low. Let them blend into something slower, rounder, quieter. And if you dream, may it be not a straight line, but a dance of likely joys. Even now, this very moment, something invisible is passing through you, not metaphorically, literally. Neutrinos, they're called. Tiny particles born in the heart of stars, in supernovae, in the quiet decay of ancient atoms. They stream through the cosmos by the trillions, and most of them pass through Earth, your house, your pillow, your body, without ever touching anything. Neutrinos are the ultimate phantoms. They barely notice matter. They're almost massless. They don't interact with light, or walls, or thoughts. They simply drift through planets, through oceans, through you, and yet they are real. Detectors buried deep underground, surrounded by mountains of silence, catch a few of them. Now and then, a faint flicker, a rare collision, proof that something passed through, not seen, but sensed. That's how the deepest truths often arrive. Isn't it not with a bang, not with noise, but with a soft presence? A recognition that something has moved through you and left a slight impression, so slight you almost miss it. A feeling, a word, a breath. You don't need to understand neutrinos to feel what they teach us. That existence doesn't require attention. That some things are true, even if they never make a sound. That presence can be silent, weightless, almost forgotten, but never unreal. Here's an image to hold as you rest. A black lake at night, still, unmoving. Above it, stars. Below it, more stars reflected, imperfectly, in the water, and beneath both, the neutrinos pass, unseen, not reflected, but there, always there. And maybe, just maybe, you've felt that kind of moment. When you pause, for no reason. When something brushes past the edges of your attention. When you sense a presence not haunting, but humming. Maybe it was a memory, or someone thinking of you, far away, or a version of you from a different time. Or maybe just a neutrino passing through. There's comfort in that. Isn't there, to know that we are bathed constantly in the quiet evidence of the universe? To know that even when we feel alone, the cosmos is moving through us, not watching, not judging, just drifting by, carrying secrets from distant stars and from long ago. Let that be your lullaby tonight. Not words, not melody, just motion. A slow, quiet river of particles that never touch, but never stop. You don't have to catch them. You don't have to respond. Just feel the stillness they leave behind. Like the hush after a bell stops ringing. Like the coolness after wind. And as you let go, know this even in your sleep. The universe continues to whisper. Through neutrinos, through dreams, through everything that moves without noise, and everything that rests without question. Somewhere, deep in a physics lab cooled to the brink of absolute zero, a wire loops in silence. No battery, no spark, and yet, the current flows forever. A perfect, unending ripple of electricity. This is the quiet miracle of superconductivity, a quantum effect made large enough to see. Not in theory, not in the stars, but in wires, in magnets. In the quiet hum of machinery that seems to defy the ordinary world. When certain materials are chilled far enough colder than the coldest night in the universe, They slip into a special state. Resistance vanishes. Electrons stop bumping. Friction disappears. And the current, once started, never fades. It loops endlessly. A kind of electrical dream that never wakes up. Why? Because the particles, once chaotic, now behave as one. They act like a single wave, a single decision, a quantum community. Think of it like dancers in a perfect circle. Normally, they stumble, bump shoulders, miss steps. But in a superconducting state, they move together, smoothly, effortlessly. No one resists. No one breaks rhythm. The current becomes timeless. You can think of your thoughts that way, too. Some days, your mind is noisy, sharp edges, random sparks, mental resistance. But then, there are those rare evenings like tonight when your thinking softens, aligns, slows into rhythm. The friction goes quiet, and your awareness begins to loop. Not chasing, not solving, just moving, smoothly, forever. Here's an image for you. A small silver ring, cooled to near nothing. Nothing moves on the outside, but inside pure motion, a current looping in silence. No input, no end. Just quiet persistence. That's superconductivity. And it lives in this world. Not just in equations, but in hospitals, in telescopes, in the magnetic trains that glide like thoughts. It's the quantum world, scaled up, so we can see it, feel it, use it. And if electricity can loop forever in silence, maybe emotions can, too. Maybe kindness loops. Maybe quiet memories circle back to us, years later, warmed by someone else's story. Maybe love, once started, doesn't always stop. Maybe the best parts of us are superconductive, needing no effort, just presence, just the right conditions. Tonight, your thoughts may loop, too. A phrase, a name, a memory you didn't invite. Let it. There's no resistance now. The mental wires are cool, and your mind, half asleep, is ready to move as one. No effort, no interruption, just flow. So sleep now, if you haven't already. Let your breath become the current. Let your mind become the ring. And know that somewhere, in the dark stillness of the quantum world, a current just like yours is still moving, still looping, still alive, forever. Imagine flipping a coin not once, but forever. Every time it rises into the air, it holds two futures' heads and tails, two outcomes, two branches of possibility. But in the quantum world, that coin doesn't just land. It spins in both directions at once. It's called quantum superposition, and it's the universe's way of saying yes and also no. You might think of nature as a strict judge, this or that, light or dark, on or off. But that's not how particles behave. Before we look, before we measure, a quantum object can be in all of its possible states. Only when we observe do we catch it in just one. The universe flips its coin and shows us one side, but the moment before it was both, a shimmering, balanced maybe. This isn't a mistake. It's how reality works at its deepest level. And not just for particles. The entire world, if you zoom in far enough, behaves like a sea of spinning coins, all waiting, all undecided, until we look. Here's a quiet image. a field of fireflies at dusk. Each one blinks in patterns you don't fully understand. Left, right, up, gone. You try to follow them, but the more you watch, the more you realize they're not blinking for you. They're blinking because they are. Because that's what light does. It dances. So does the coin. So do your thoughts. So does sleep. You don't decide the exact moment it arrives. It spins, in soft air, above you, and when it lands, you won't even hear it. Only the silence it leaves behind. Sometimes we want to be sure, to choose a path, to say this and not that. But the quantum world reminds us, some of the most natural states are the ones where choice hasn't happened yet, where you are still becoming, where the story is still flexible, and where two possibilities live side by side, without conflict, like heads and tails, held gently in a spinning moment. You don't have to choose right now, not what to think, not what to feel. You can stay in superposition a while longer. Half in this room, half in a dream, half in today, half in tomorrow. It's not confusion, it's completion. The state where everything is still possible, and nothing has hardened. Let's drift with that idea, that maybe your favorite version of yourself is still forming, still circling above, waiting for just the right moment to land. And when it does, you won't hear a thud. You'll feel a warmth, a softness, a presence. And even then, even when the coin settles, you'll know it wasn't wrong to hesitate. It wasn't wasted time to float. Because while you were spinning, you were free. So now, if your eyes are heavy, or your thoughts are quieting, that's okay. You flipped your coin, and the side it lands on, it says rest. We often think of quantum physics as something microscopic tucked away in the realm of atoms and photons, sealed inside particle colliders and cold labs. But what if? It's not limited to the small what if. The weirdness of quantum behavior, the blur, the superpositions, the entanglement echoes out into the cosmic scale. For a long time, physicists believed the quantum and classical worlds lived in different neighborhoods. Particles do one thing, planets do another. But recently, strange hints have emerged. Ripples in the sky, tiny anomalies in the cosmic microwave background, that faint afterglow of the Big Bang suggesting that the universe itself may have once existed in a quantum state. The whole thing, before stars, before space had shape, before time had rhythm. Everything we know was wrapped up in a swirling, undecided possibility. A universe in superposition, one vast cosmic wave, and then it collapsed. Not with a sound, not with a flash, just a choice. The moment of inflation, as they call it, wasn't just expansion, it was observation. The first act of measurement. The first time possibility became presence. And here we are. You, me, this breath, this thought, all unfolding from that quiet quantum sigh. Here's an image. A vast, velvet sky. No stars, just darkness, dense with potential. Then a flicker, a quiver, and slowly, like dew forming on grass, galaxies bloom into place. Not because they were forced into being, but because they were finally measured, felt, witnessed. And if the universe can unfold from a whisper of possibility, then so can you. You don't have to come from certainty. You don't have to trace every step to a plan. Maybe your thoughts are ripples from something older, something softer, something just waiting to be observed. Even now, your mind is filled with stars you haven't mapped, emotions that stretch like nebulae, ideas that move in orbits you can't predict. It's okay. You're not supposed to see all of it. You're supposed to drift in it, to feel the curve of the cosmos without needing to chart the whole sky. So tonight, if you feel small beneath the weight of galaxies, remember the stars are not above you. They're within you, formed from the same quantum flicker, the same breath of chance, the same ancient blur that once became real. Maybe that's what dreams are made of. 2. The leftovers of cosmic possibility, soft echoes of the universe before it chose. And each night, when you fall asleep, you return there. Just for a moment. Just long enough to remember what it feels like to be everything. Before you become something. So rest now. Stretch across the stars in your thoughts. Let the silence widen and feel the soft tug of gravity pulling you not down, but in. Toward a center older than time. Toward a sleep as vast as space itself. Let's suppose, just for a moment, that you're not entirely here. Not in a dramatic way, not gone. Not lost, but softly, divided. A part of you lies in bed, listening to this voice, breathing gently beneath a quiet ceiling. But another part, maybe it's out there, elsewhere, in another possibility, another timeline, another version of tonight. This idea is not fantasy, at least not entirely. Some physicists believe that when quantum events branch, they do so completely. The universe splits, not in half, but in countless directions, each one with a slightly different version of you. It's called the many minds interpretation, and it's more than a theory. It's a mirror held up to the self. Each choice, each thought, each moment of hesitation might bloom into another branch, another version of consciousness, drifting softly in a different direction. Maybe in one world, you're still awake. In another, already dreaming. In another, you never clicked on this video. In yet another, you are the narrator whispering to someone else. But don't worry. You don't have to manage them. You don't need to find those other selves. They're not problems. They're petals on the same flower. Gentle echoes of your own becoming, each one carrying a slightly different scent of the same existence. Here's a gentle image. A field of mirrors, laid flat across a quiet meadow. You lie on your back, looking up at the stars. But in each mirror, a slightly different sky reflects back. One has a shooting star. One has a crescent moon. One shows no stars at all, just clouds, soft and blue. And in each mirror, you are there. Same eyes, same breath, but slightly rearranged. This isn't meant to overwhelm. It's meant to remind you that your identity isn't fragile. It's flexible. You're not a fixed character on a page. You're more like a melody played by many instruments, each one distinct, each one true. Sometimes, late at night, you may remember a version of yourself that felt like a stranger, a younger you, a braver you, a version who said something you wish you'd said tonight. That's not regret. That's resonance. You're feeling the hum of another mind, your own, just slightly out of phase. And that's okay. Let it drift through. like a thought from another dream. You don't need to figure out which version is the real you. They all are, and none are alone. The universe is vast, yes, but it's not cold. It's full of yous. Listening to this, drifting off, choosing peace. And if you find yourself caught between thoughts, half here, half far, let that be your comfort. It means you're still open, still soft, still part of the wave, still echoing into other skies. So let go, gently. Let the mirrors fade. Let the field dissolve. Let all versions of you, in every world, agree on one thing tonight, that it is time to rest. And now we arrive at the quietest part of the journey. No more questions. No more branches. Just this one path, narrowing gently, like a stream that finally smooths into still water. The phantom world has shown us much particles that wander through two places at once, decisions that ripple backward, universes that blossom from a single maybe, but all of them, eventually, return to something simple, something whole. We started with a particle, alone, small, undecided. Now, we return to wholeness, to one place, to rest. At some point somewhere in the space between thoughts, you've already begun to settle. Maybe you didn't notice. Maybe you thought you were still listening, but your breath told the truth. Slower, wider. Each inhale a little softer than the one before. That's how it works. Just as particles collapse into one outcome, your thoughts begin to choose a single direction. Not because they were forced, because they are tired, because they're ready, because even the deepest questions need stillness to echo in. Let's revisit that particle, the one from the very beginning. It passed through both slits. It danced with uncertainty. It whispered, I could be anywhere. But then, it landed. It became a dot on a screen, a point in time, a place in space. Just one. Not because the other possibilities weren't real, but because this one was enough. And maybe that's the real lesson, that we don't need to chase every version of ourselves, that the version lying here now breathing, warm, safe is the one that landed, the outcome that arrived. And all the others, they're still part of the wave. They helped shape the curve, but they faded now into the quiet background, into a kind of memory, or maybe a dream. So here is the final image. A wide ocean at night. No waves, no wind. Just the surface, flat as glass. Above it, the stars. Below it, the deep. And in the middle, you, still floating, but no longer drifting. No longer in two places, just one. Right here, right now. No more need to observe. No more need to ask. Let the wave collapse. Let the probabilities fade. Let the sound of the universe, soft and constant, wrap around you like a blanket. And if a thought comes, let it come. If a dream comes, let it bloom. You've crossed through every maybe. And now, there is only rest. Over the course of this gentle journey through quantum physics, we've wandered through the dreamy terrain of particles in two places, entangled twins across galaxies, decisions that ripple backward in time, and minds that echo across many versions of the self. We've met Schrödinger's cat, whispered with neutrinos, and followed the curves of possibility all the way to cosmic scales. But in the end, Every branch returns to one resting place. This moment, this breath, this stillness. Sleep softly now. The wave has collapsed, and you are exactly where you need to be. End of script. Good night.